What the hell are you guys doing?
Oh, hey Golden Fox. We were just fan-squeeing over the 100th episode.
Oh. Oh my gosh, 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 oh my gosh. Okay, so now that that's out of our system, this episode was really quite something. For an episode that is the 100th, including the two-parters, I wasn't sure where the writers were going to go at this point, provided they did so much. So for an episode to be centered on the background characters, it was a nice welcome, even though the fans are guilty of liking the fan pandering. And yes, it's flown with fan pandering. It's silly, all over the place, and I love it. It's also well aware of what the episode is doing, and in doing so, everything is embraced.
Another interesting aspect, and this is coming from me, being someone who doesn't usually pay that close attention to staff credits and who does what, is that Slice of Life also brings to focus some secondary tier staff, or at least some of those that we may not give as much thought to in relation to others. As big of a fan of Daniel Ingram and his work as I am, I have to admit, hearing William Anderson's music being brought to the foreground was a pleasant alteration to the norms we're used to.
When I heard that the 100th landmark episode was coming, I was so excited we get to see the background ponies making their chance to shine. As a student at the Digital Media University, I had a feeling that this episode would be full to the brim with fan service. As this 100th episode showed, now we loved the show for the past 5 years, and today it is still strong and amazing to be part of with us bronies here in the fandom. Fan service in media is okay in my book, as it gives the staff the chance to bring stuff to the table, as long as it doesn't take away from the overall story. However, a big landmark as this is worth celebrating about. Let's get this party started!
We start off with Cranky and Doodle, a couple we haven't seen in a while, as they prepare for a wedding. Originally they planned on having the wedding set for tomorrow, but the date was set to today instead. So in a clusterfuck, Matilda goes to gather many of the other characters to set up the wedding. And all of this was because of one character who misprinted the invitation.
Muffin? This is her first speaking role since the last roundup in Season 2, and we remember the controversy at that point about her voice being changed and stuff. But luckily, Tabitha St. Germain's voice at Derpy is being portrayed better along with her character. I'm loving this so far.
And iTunes, you better leave Derpy alone, or so Luna help me, you're going to regret it.
It's Muffins now, Goldie.
Wait, what?
Yeah, check the end credits. Her name is listed as Muffins.
But we can still call her Derpy in our fan works.
Either or. Because Muffins feels bad about the misprint, she wishes to go back in time. So she talks about this to Time Turner, actually. Let me check the credits again. Guys, you may want to be careful that BBC might sue you.
Something I want to talk about on this beloved wall-eyed mare. I absolutely adore the fact that they make her out to not be such a moron like the tightwad asses tried to say she was back in the last roundup. She's an entrepreneur, utilizing connections and resources in order to connect people, their ponies in this case, with needed services, like helping young artisans make connections with clientele in such a way that makes both parties happy. Exactly the way it should be. She's not stupid, she's not dumb, she's just a bit unfocused, much like a certain peak pony we've already been familiar with for years now. And speaking of the Doc, I loved his portrayal. My expectations for this episode were high in terms of really opening up opportunities for the writers and animators to express their own ideas for what these background characters are like. And while some of it is familiar to us as fans, there were also some interesting and new even welcome twists to some of the characters we've been falling in love with the past 5 years. There were so many references to Doctor Who with these two, not to mention the adorable shipping. OMG, they are just so adorable together. Look at them, so cute.
I know, right?
I, for one, don't watch Doctor Who that much. That being said, I enjoyed what the staff insisted on referencing him to, given how acknowledgeable they are to the fandom's interpretation of the character. Although him saying things like Great Wickering Stallions as if he's Doc Brown could get a little annoying after a while. In his subplot, he intends to get his suit tailored for the wedding, and the closest he can find is a group of bowlers from the Cutie Pox who reference the Great Lebowski. As a catch, he's to play and beat a game of bowling with them in order to get his suit tailored if the team wins. Unfortunately, while it is a nice callback, this part goes on for a little too long, and it adds little to nothing. Why? because later on in the episode, Doc leaves the game unfinished after Muffins, tells the Doc that she has flameless fireworks set up for the wedding, something she was addressed to earlier in his laboratory. This is because of how bad Muffins felt and what favors she could do in return to make up for it. This doesn't please Doc, provided how hazardous it might get. So what was the bowling game for again?
Well, plot-wise, the bowling game was against another team, but the team the Doc had met had their fourth missing. So they roped Doc into being their fourth in exchange for them tailoring his suit for the wedding. At least when he bails on them, we get to see the end of his bracket. He misses the spare, and it kinda pisses off the big one.
More like all of them. Outside of the bowling alley, we see several background ponies grouped together as they talk about the main six. Well, that's totally not stalking.
Maybe it's just a friendship problem, and it'll all be cleared up in a half an hour or so.
I hope so.
Well, we officially have our second tier Pinkie Pie. Where's the super glue again? We're gonna need it for the fourth wall breaks.
Okay, what the hell? That's an odd combination.
Half panda and half bee. A bugbear. I've heard of people throwing pandas at us, but this is ridiculous.
I like this angle. By giving the main six something to do during the episode, they're not just, not there. True to the episode's name, it's about the day-to-day life, with just a little bit of action and adventure mixed in. It's not the first time the main six have been pushed to the background either. After all, they let Rainbow Dash continue with her weather sabotage when we came back from commercial break during Tanks for the Memories. That was just where we got the Who's On First reference scene with clear and blue skies. In any case, looks like the main six will have their hooves full today with this... bugbear?
Did you say bugbear? It found me!
Ah, of course. Lyra and Bonbon, one of the most popular shippings in the fandom. I should add something about these two. The cleverest thing that I have to give credit to Emmy Larson on is that they made the scene very well aware of the Bonbon name. This is a step up from Rainbow Falls, where Bulk Biceps was given his name without any further notice to the fans, who referred to him as Snowflake. This was a disappointment for me as well as many others because of how blunt it was of the staff, without giving any further notice when the fandom called him Snowflake all these years. Here, the actual name for Bonbon is Sweetie Drops, but they actually acknowledge what the fandom has called Sweetie Drops by giving out the other name and playing it as a secret agent role on her. That is dedication.
It also gives an interesting excuse as to why we see Bonbon in, every group shot in this series. And I've heard some fans saying it explains why she has 1,000 different voices as well. She's multi-talented, much like a certain Pegasus I know.
Aw, thank you.
You're my very best friend.
Okay, I don't care what they call in the episode. That look, the way they hold each other in their hooves, those two are fucking.
So far, we've seen a majority of the background ponies get their fair share of screen time. There's a few minimal ones like Rose, Daisy, and Lily referencing Apocalypse Now, Steve and Magnet, and the Massagers, Aloe and Lotus.
As I expected, the 100th episode special was obviously a brilliant chance for the writers and animators to show us what their creative sides could do with these background characters we've been watching for years, and I wasn't disappointed in the least. From seeing the time scientist of the Doc and Derpy's delivering services, to the Flower Trio's dramatic reactions to, well, problems with their flowers at least, screw the Monster Ranch paintings through their hometown, and of course my favorite characterizations between two musically inclined ponies we all know and love. We've seen step after step of creative works from the show's writers and animators, showing us that what we see in the main six isn't exclusive to just a small cast, but can be done for any one of their characters they've created. It's this level of quality of writing that brought us all to the show in the first place, and at least is what continues to bring me back for more, with each and every new episode.
Speaking of two musical ponies, we now get to see Vinyl Scratch and Octavia.
This is my favorite part of the episode. It's a nice compare and contrast in their personalities within their passion of music. Octavia's orchestral style with the modern sounds of dubsteps with vinyl reflects very well on how everyone is willing to combine and make a new form themselves. The fandom has had an enormous growth of musicians, and it was fascinating to see on what the episode was willing to do. A major instance being One Last Letter, a combination of some metal from Bronified and synthesized works of Aviators.
This is another great surprise and contrast to what the fandom knows about these two. Rather than struggling against each other, their personalities actually mesh really well, and they apparently even seem to jam together on a regular basis, since their exchanges are relatively wordless. The music, too, is an astonishing piece in and of itself, and is worthy of some of the best pieces that we've seen Daniel Ingram do in the series. William Anderson's hand puts the two styles of music together seamlessly, which I'm sure was no small feat. I can't wait to hear some more works done based off of this one, now that we have a canon mix between dubstep music and classical orchestral. And I also love the fact that they show Glaze using her turntable as basically another instrument.
I really love the scene from start to finish, not only from an animation point of view, but also from a musical perspective as well. This music reminds me from an instrumental piece called Variations, from the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical Song and Dance. This piece is both the use of classical music and modern music mashed together, with the awesome child stylings of Andrew Lloyd Webber's brother, Julian Lloyd Webber. This is featured in the second half with the cast creating their own dance styles, from ballet to hip-hop. After seeing what Vinyl Arteria did, I immediately recognized the musical style. The characterization of these two are really well done as well, and it gives them the motion of being roommates as seen from the design of their house, and also gives a nod to the fandom as well, as they portray them as roommates. And then the two ponies race across town on a DJ deck baseball-mobile, and we get to see some more familiar faces as they race to the wedding.
As if this episode wasn't ridiculous enough, I was laughing so hard at the scene.
That's one of the best parts of this episode. It is fully aware of just how ridiculous it is, and it embraces every aspect of it.
Wait. Rewind that bit and play the sequence again in slow motion. And freeze it. What the hell?
Okay, that was so hilarious.
Larson, you are such a troll.
Larson, you seriously can't get any more ridiculous, can you?
What is life? Is it nothing more than the endless search for a cutie mark? And what of the poor gator? Flank, forever blank, destined to an existential swim down the river of life to an unknowable destiny?
Okay, never mind, I asked. I'm gonna go get some coffee now.
So after that musical interlude, we finally arrive at the wedding, and we get to see Celestia and Luna acting like sisters instead of princesses, as they argue about who should bring the wedding presents. I wanted to see those signs of the royal sisters for a long time. I honestly want to see an episode like this in the future. But above all, this was a very good start. And we also get to see Cadence in Shining Armor too.
Oh look, here comes the main sit. And another cock tease. Seriously?
Well, they didn't even bother to knock.
Once all things settle inside, we get to hear a bit of a speech from Mayor Mare. And this is where things start to touch the heart. Her speech she gives about everyone telling their own story might have been touched on in other media before, but never to this level. Yes, we've gotten to see some fun action from the main characters of our story, but this whole episode has been about the other people in life, expanding on seeing the world as a whole, and even seeing the same thing from a new perspective. It really is everyone, not just close friends, but the people you might meet while shopping about that help to fill the rest of the corners of your life. And in turn, it's everyone, no matter how small a role they may think they have, that which is important in life. And as the saying goes, there's always a rest of the story.
When it comes to a story, background characters are just as important for a role because it adds life to an enriched environment. It provides more activity to invest the viewer and not just what the main characters are. You look at a downtown street, for instance, and there's only a few people in a situation. In that eye, everything that is presented feels too empty and shallow as the main characters that are only focused on underwhelms a viewer. With the crowd and other activities going around, it adds more to what the environment provides as we're given our attention to what the main characters are doing. Another analogy to put is that there are people behind a stage act as they provide whatever special effects there are, as well as janitors who have to clean up after the act is over. They deserve as much respect as the performers do. This episode brings that analogy to life, which is why I didn't have that big of an issue on how fan-pandering it was.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. This has become one of my favorite moments out of the entire series. The Mayor speaking to the wedding guests, it's actually speaking to all of us here who watch the show. It's true that we all play a huge part in all of our lives, through the good times and the bad times. We have ourselves, our families, and our friends to be part of that journey. If it weren't for us here in the fandom, the show wouldn't have reached this point, and this model reflects this. If we can continue our support to the MLP staff for conventions and other things, they may have a chance to reach the 200th mark. If that happens, this show will make the history books.
In the end, there's a number of ways to look at this episode. Obviously, it's a silly and over-the-top episode with several background characters taking the limelight instead of the main characters. It was weird, it was zany, but I loved it. It's a nice contrast to the norm of the series, and it puts us in a different view than the same old. However, this episode in and of itself could have been tweaked better. The bowling scene was given too much space, and the focus can get a little too confusing from the main plot, being about cranking Matilda's preparation for the wedding. That's only a nitpick though. Would I recommend this episode to any newcomers? I personally wouldn't, since no one would get the idea on what the show is about. I'm also aware of how many people hated the episode for its fan pandering, as it's equivalent to waving keys in front of a child's face. and to some degree that is understandable. That said and done, despite on how ridiculous and stupid this episode is, I loved Slice of Life. It's filled with nice comebacks, the humor is well embraced, and it's an overall nice love letter to the fandom.
For me, this episode was fantastic. There were a few parts that were a bit confusing, but overall this was a fantastic and entertaining episode. This gave the background characters the chance to be in the spotlight with their amazing personalities, which will give the fandom some new food for thought for songs, fanfics and fan art. Whilst the episode was full of fan service, and I agree that this was a real love letter to us here in the fandom, it didn't stir from the overall narrative. Another favorite episode from this season, and another episode from my top episodes in the entire series. The story, the music, the animation, the moral, and the humor was top notch as well. I give this episode a 9.5 out of 10 stars. Thanks, Emmy Larson.
While the episode is definitely for the fans and not for the general public, I'm definitely one of those that will accept this episode as what it is. As Goldie said, a love letter to the fans. And that's for all of us, from content creators like artists, musicians, and even reviewers, to those that wait up every Saturday morning for the latest episode with their kids. Slice of Life is a beautiful episode I think will be cherished by much of us for a long time to come. Story-wise, it keeps its head on straight, without taking itself seriously at all, while maybe it's the best way to look at our own slice of life as well. We got to see the new creative works of new characters and see to focus on the background musicians for the show, as well as some other voice actors, with lessons showing that everyone, no matter how small they may think they play in this world, is an important and vital part of the other's stories. There's just nothing for me to dislike about this work. Definitely one of the best of the series thus far, and hopefully only one of the great ones still to come this season and beyond.
So until next time, I'm Golden Fox.
RosePal.
And Postscript of the Brony Crusaders, and we'll catch you all next time.